Hey, welcome to Drive-By Reviews, where today we're taking a second look at the Viltrox Speedbooster. In the previous video, I took a look at this with the Nifty 50 and compared it to the Canon 32mm to show you what image quality issues might arise using the booster. But the question that came up was it the Nifty 50 or the booster giving most of the image quality issues? So today we're going to take a look at the booster versus just a straight adapter with the Canon EF 40mm to see what image quality issues are coming from the booster itself. And beyond that, we're going to take a look at autofocusing performance between the two, as well as low light and more. So stay tuned at this second look at the Viltrox Speedbooster. Here we go. Alright, so starting right off the bat with an image quality comparison. Here we have some watches set up with some detailed writing so we can really get into the nitty-gritty of image quality, clarity, sharpness, and so on. The left has the Viltrox Speedbooster, here at f2, wide open, shooting manually, ISO 100, focused on the Tree Hut logo. And then on the right we have the adapter shooting at f2.8. And as you can see, it's basically the same, just a little bit faster shutter speed there. So let's zoom in. Left is again Viltrox. So here's the Viltrox Speedbooster, and on the right here we're going to have the adapter. And as you can see, the sharpest point is sharper on the adapter, but not insanely so. I'd say probably the biggest difference it looks to me like is that the depth of field on the Viltrox is smaller than the depth of field on the adapter only. You can see how much more here is nice, crisp, and clear compared to the booster where it fades out pretty quickly. And it fades out more. You can see how much more out of focus just one watch tilted to the other side is on the booster compared to here. And if we zoom out and we look at the background, you can see a big difference in bokeh as well. And this is something I brought up in the original comparison video where it really kind of depended on personal preference, how you like your background. But the background on the booster gives a warmer color. Actually gives like a different texture to the bokeh, as far as I can tell. So there's a difference there. You can see that right there. And this isn't quite apples to apples, which is nice when we move up to the next one. Actually, let's look back here real quick. That's interesting there. Less harsh on the color difference there between the Viltrox and the adapter. And if just looking at the whole composition in general, you can just see that difference in how the out-of-focus background appears. It's actually kind of softer and creamier on the boosted setup. And I actually like it. I think this is actually a nice photo coming from the boosted setup. I wouldn't complain about that at all. Okay, let's jump it up. Okay, so same setting here, except we're looking at the middle watches. And what I liked about this particular shot is it really illustrated that depth of field difference coming between the two setups. So you have here the words on that coffee can, and you can just see the focal point was meant to be lined up with the watch face on this Caravelle watch. And as you can see, again, more in focus overall on the adapter, the lens only, and the boost took a little bit of that away. And you can see how that presents right here, right? So here's the most in focus compared to the most in focus on the adapter. And the adapter is definitely a lot sharper. And then it goes way out of focus quite rapidly on the boosted setup. You can see that just right here as it comes across the words, out of focus. Whereas at 2.8, zipping right along, most of it in focus, a little bit here in that section that curves forward towards the camera, right? And this is as thin as it gets on the adapted setup and as thin as it gets on the boosted setup. And then as far as the creamy background and the creamy foreground in this case, you're going to see a difference there too. Just way more out of focus faster, if that's what you're looking for. And again, keep in mind the boosted setup really lost image quality pretty rapidly wide open. And if you're going to utilize it, you're probably not going to utilize it completely at its fastest speed, which is going to show on your camera as f2. Full stop faster. Okay, we're going to jump to the back watch here. So we're going to go boop and boop. Okay, so the back watch is probably going to have a similar story here. You can already see that in the foreground. Still more out of focus here, more out of focus even in the middle ground items. And then if we look at the watch in the back, it's going to see a similar story there with, there, let it load. Similar story there with the Vincero logo being more in focus. It's not quite as noticeable here, is it? Not, yeah, it's a little more out of focus on the Viltrox Speedbooster, but everything else is pretty phenomenal there. But once again, you're going to see it just go out of focus faster on the strap here, out of focus faster around the watch face compared to just the adapter. All right, but let's take it away from being wide open and see what happens in that comparison. All right, f4 on both lenses, still ISO 100, still manually focusing. We're going to go back to the front watch. And so you're going to see the difference here as the booster is allowed to go away from being wide open at f2 and reading out at f4, you're going to see it becomes a much more reasonable in focus product coming out here. And of course, the adapted product is also very nice as well, but it was pretty decent from the beginning considering the 40mm lens is not bad. Interestingly enough though, I would say it actually looks more in focus on the boosted setup to me. Let's see if that continues true to the back. Still a more creamy and larger bokeh coming from the background, more out of focus in general. True for the back watch as well, still more out of focus and a little fuzzier. Okay, let's jump it up to the middle watch here. Okay, focusing on the middle ground, you can see the difference already just looking at the whole composition of the photo. All those words look pretty well in focus, but boy, that difference, it's almost like having your doctor throw a pair of glasses on you, right? You see that? Out of focus compared to this. We zoom right into those words, and yep, still showing a bit of that fast out of focus, thinner depth of field issue coming from the Viltrox Speedbooster in comparison to the adapter. And once again, the main point, what's in focus is more in focus, although slightly I would say at this point. Definitely more defined on the words here, and a little bit less defined here, right on the most focused portion. Well, let's look over at the Caravelle watch. This looks a lot better on the adapted setup, right? You can see that blurriness still here, but over here it's pretty darn blurry in comparison. And even the logo itself just doesn't, you know, it's just not in focus here compared to the adapted setup. And then looking in the back, starting to get a little bit more of that watch in focus. About the same there. Yeah, about the same. Step it up again, Viltrox, boom, looking on the back watch. All right, so this is where it starts to even out. Again, we're seeing that in the foreground. About the same here on what's out of focus. Yeah, it's pretty much comparable. On the back, yeah, definitely a massive improvement here on the Viltrox Speedbooster. You can see that just in the watch face, how in focus everything is compared to it shooting at f2. Whereas on the adapter, it's better as well, but it was, look at even the reflection is pretty much in focus. But the boosted setup obviously does have slight image quality issues in comparison, but this to me isn't that noticeable at this point. Now let's go a little further. We're going to open this up to f8, right? Should have the least amount of issues at f8. Looking at the front watch again, let's zoom in. Okay, so whole watch face is in focus. I would say, I don't know, it's interesting. You know, that the Tree Hut logo on the boosted setup just looks more in focus. It really does. Zip a little further. Yeah, it just looks, that's great. At this point, I wouldn't say there's a significant difference coming from the boosted setup. Background looks pretty much the same. Middle ground looks pretty much the same. There's still that color difference. You're seeing that here. If you look really closely at the whites, you see a slight color difference there. The whole composition of the photo, you're going to see a little color difference here, right? Oh wow, you can even see the fuzz. I didn't even know there was fuzz on those with my naked eye, but you can see it here. That's really in focus. All right, let's take a look at the middle. Give it a second to load. Bam! Look at those letters pop. Let's take a look at the Caravelle watch. Yeah, more in focus here on the adapted setup. You can see that in the logo there. Let's jump over to the letters. Okay, so still a difference here, as you can see, just how well this is handling the white letters on a black surface. And you can just see that there, this just isn't the greatest. The way it's discoloring, it's not super sharp. It is here, it's pretty much almost as good here, but in the text that wrap closer to the camera, once again, this is just not as nice as this. And that's actually a little bit noticeable. I mean, you can see that even from here, that how noticeable that is in comparison between the photos. All right, jump into the back. That's probably virtually, yeah, the same, okay. And let's focus on the back watch real quick. Front looks about the same to me, and the back watch should be fully in focus here. And we can even see, we can even see the fibers, can't we? Yeah, we can again. Guess I'll have to fuzz roll these things out. But there you go, Vincero logo is in focus. Looks pretty much comparable to me, about the same. And so when you're shooting at f8, where you start to really get rid of a lot of those quality issues that's just coming from how large the aperture is, you really start evening out these issues. But of course, the adapted setup has slightly less image quality issues. All right, good stuff. Let's continue on with a different comparison, shooting outside. Other issues arise when you're shooting something like this, an outdoor scene, a lot of light coming through, and a lot of distance from the camera to the subjects throughout the photo, right? Houses quite a ways away, all the way down the block. So on the left, we got the Viltrox shooting at f8, ISO 100 again, and then on the right, we have the adapter shooting at f8 as well. And if you look at the back farthest subjects in this photo, you're gonna see the limitation on both of these lenses on their setup. And as you can see here, the adapter is sharper. You can see that in the window. You can see that in everything, really. All the lines of the home, it's just sharper overall. And this is interesting. It's as you're trying to manually focus the background with the boosted setup, it starts to come in focus and then just stops at this point. This is the most in focus this can get at this distance with these subjects. Things that are closer, like let's say this puddle, are more in focus, but still compared to the adapted setup, non-boosted, completely different there, right? Looks like that twig blew away in between shots. Let's see, where's a good spot? This is good, yeah, like that line in the road. You can see that there, right? Just the definition on this line especially. Even the definition here where the water ends, how crisp that is and how fuzzy this is. This, by the way, is also a good example of the field of view change on the boosted setup versus the adapted setup. You're just losing that extra field of view on the adapted setup, which is what the booster is giving you. All right, but watch this. We're gonna go from f8 to f4. f8 to f4 on both of these. So zooming right in again, you're gonna see the Viltrox Speedbooster rapidly decline in the sharpness and the ability to focus on these distant subjects. And this to me is probably the more significant issue between the boosted setup and the non-boosted setup, showing what the booster elements are doing to your ability to focus. This is as well as it could do. Manual, and I even compared it to autofocusing, this is the best it could do. This is as good as you can get the background in focus. And as you can see, the adapted setup is doing quite well. It's basically the same as f8 at f4, but the boosted setup just completely lost it, completely fuzzy, everywhere. Because you're trying to focus on the background, not this sign, right? You can just see that tremendous difference. And watch this, we're not even at wide open yet. Let's go wide open, let's see what happens. Okay, so wide open on the adapter is 2.8, wide open on the booster is 2, f2, and you can see just it blowing out. This on both of these was overexposing, because shooting ISO 100, 1/4000th of a second was not fast enough to keep it from overexposing. But even at that point, it's extremely overexposed on the Viltrox Boost setup compared to the adapted setup, and both of them were overexposed. Makes a little bit of sense, as the boosted setup is an effective f2 versus 2.8. But even beyond that, it's just not focusing at all at this point. In fact, it looks like you're focusing on something else entirely. But this is as good as it gets, focusing on the background, even this closer truck, even this closer puddle. Everything in this photo is out of focus. That's not really even, I mean, that's the most in focus. This is as good as it gets. And this is, again, I tested it against autofocusing and also attempted to adjust the focus as far out as I could. And wide open, this is as good as it gets at a distance. And so that to me is one of the biggest weaknesses of the Viltrox Speedbooster, is that if you're going to try and shoot far away with a lens that is capable of it, it's going to severely limit you, which is something to seriously consider if you're going to utilize this lens setup with a booster for something beyond just vlogging or videography. If you're going to go into photos, these are the kind of things you're going to run into when, say, maybe you do want to shoot a wide open. If there's a little less light, you're not getting overexposed, and it's going to have these kind of quality issues. Okay, continuing on with the motif of overexposure, here we go, looking for possible chromatic aberration, maybe some purple fringing coming from either lens setup. And on the left, we got the Viltrox Speedbooster wide open at f2. Right is the adapter at f2.8. And we're shooting into a bright backdrop. This is basically shooting into a sunny background. And wide open, you can see we're already having some issues with how in focus things are, but that's pretty good right in the center there. And then let's go to the edge, where we're going to see the most of this. And you're going to see both of these are going to have a little bit of that going on. See that purple back there on the adapted setup? Let's go down. Let's see. Doesn't look as bad on the, well, it's pretty bad. If anything, the overexposure on the booster avoided too much of the purple coloring, but it definitely got a lot of that ghosting. There's a little bit of purple there on the left. So a little bit of variance, but both pretty miserable wide open, shooting into the bright backdrop. Usable photo, but pretty miserable nonetheless. Okay, but let's go away from fully open here. Okay, up to f4. Viltrox on the left still, adapter on the right. Let's go in here. By the way, that's a more reasonable photo as far as getting everything to work well, but let's see here. More in focus overall, right? They're both doing quite well. Looking in here between the dark subject and the bright background. Looking pretty good on both sides. Look at that. Just get away from the overexposure. And close up the aperture a little bit, and you've got a pretty decent improvement in quality overall. What's in focus is pretty well in focus, still a little bit more in focus on the adapted setup. You got that field of view difference coming from the booster versus the adapted setup. And you're still getting a little bit of this lens flaring going on the adapted setup. That's interesting. I got a separate test for that coming up later on the video portion of this comparison. All right, let's go up to f8. All right, f8 here. Looking good there in the middle. I'm gonna go up to the top. Looking good here on the adapted setup. That's great. Look at that. Nice separation and contrast between the darker foreground and the bright background. Pretty good on the boosted setup as well. Not as crisp. You can kind of see that throughout the leaves and the branches. And even the separation between the foreground and the background. Also, the metering brought us a bit darker on the Viltrox setup. But yeah, I'm not seeing too much chromatic aberration going on. Maybe a little bit here through the Viltrox Speedbooster side. But once again, you're going to see that slight quality difference. Again, I don't think it's as noticeable at this point. So if you're shooting more in the mid-range of the f-stops, you're going to have quite a bit more performance improvement on the Viltrox Speedbooster. Also true, of course, on the adapted setup, but just not nearly as big of a contrast in quality overall. But the most noticeable thing so far to me has just been how poorly in focus things were far away from the camera when it came to the boosted setup. Okay, using that same tree, we're going to do a lens flaring comparison here, starting off with the Viltrox Speedbooster in video mode, and you can see that just like in the photos, it doesn't have too big of an issue there with lens flaring, even when shooting straight up past this tree towards the sun. Pretty tolerable stuff, and just like in the photos, we're going to see here that that actually is far more prominent in the adapter setup. Boom, quite a bit more lens flaring coming from the adapter only. And this is actually a nice big win for the Viltrox Speedbooster, especially if lens flaring is a concern of yours, because there's quite a bit less with the Viltrox Speedbooster, and that's just pretty apparent in this comparison right here. Now we're going to jump into a portion of autofocusing testing, starting with those watches we had earlier using single point autofocus to bounce between these different subjects to see what the difference is in speed and accuracy between the Viltrox Speedbooster and the straight adapter. 4K straight adapter, single point autofocus, front watch to coffee, to back watch, to side watch, the front watch, to back watch, to front watch, to back watch, to front watch, to side watch, to back watch, to coffee. Viltrox Speedbooster in 4K single point autofocus, from front watch to coffee, to back watch, to side watch, to front watch, to back watch, to front watch, to back watch, to front watch, side watch, back watch, coffee, front watch. Okay, so here we have just the adapter with face tracking and eye tracking autofocus activated. As you can see, once you're in the frame and you got the shot, it's going to hold quite well on tracking autofocus. However, the tricky stuff comes when you start throwing it curveballs, like giving it something else to focus on and the face comes out of the frame. So we're going to give it the hand, I'm going to give it back to the face. Pretty good there. Now watch this. What if I come completely out of the frame, give it the hand, and then we're going to give it way too close of a face. Way far out of the frame. Okay, holding up pretty well. This is the adapter, straight adapter. There's no other lens elements. It's just interacting electronically with the lens. There we go, I tricked it. Okay, it's got it. All right, not the fastest in the world, but it's definitely still functional and usable for vlogging purposes. Let's jump over to the Viltrox Speedbooster and see how it does with face tracking autofocus. Ba-doom! Okay, we're on the Viltrox Speedbooster here, and we have face tracking, eye tracking autofocus. Once again, we're going to see how it moves back and forth. This kind of speed, perfect. This is great for vlogging, in and out, keeping focus right on my face. Now I'm going to go with a little bit of hand placement. Now one thing to keep in mind is this is actually in video mode, so it's actually fully adjustable automatically on all of its settings. And I am going to try it on the thinnest depth of field possible. Okay, we're going to go hand out of the frame, into the frame, should already be focused there. Got my eye, okay, back out. Way back here, it's got me already. There you go. That actually seemed a little bit better than the straight adapter, which would make sense because I've heard complaints about the adapter being a little bit slow when it comes to the speed of autofocusing. And on face tracking, that's probably the most difficult. Let's jump over to a really thin depth of field and see how it does with that. Okay, just keeping with the Viltrox Speedbooster on, this is at f2, wide open as much as it can go with the Speedbooster. And I'm gonna come all the way in, all the way out. Okay, we're gonna go really fast. Come in, see if it keeps tracking. Still got my eye. Okay, accuracy is good. Speed is a little slower. Okay, let's see this now. We're going to go hand. Give it the hand, it's got it. Yep, face. Pretty slow there, okay. Let's try hand. Back into frame, it's got my face and eye. There's the speed. And we're going to come all the way back out. So there's thin depth of field. You can see it's a little bit slower, makes sense, with that really tight area of focus to keep my face in focus. Gives us a really nice creamy background though. All right, let's check that in comparison to the straight adapter. Back to the adapter only, same thing, wide open. This is f2.8 effectively on just the adapter with the 40mm. So here we go, face tracking, eye tracking, autofocus. Here's the speed, keeping me pretty well tracked the whole time. Here's a faster speed. Little lag there. Doing pretty well. All right, let's give it the hand. Get rid of the face. Still trying to keep my face. Okay, out of frame. Wait, did I get the hand in focus? Yep. Back into frame. Back out, got the eye. Here we go, way back. And there it is. Well, there you go. There's the difference between the Viltrox Speedbooster and the adapter here with its thinnest depth of field and how fast it can operate when trying to keep your face in focus. moving from close to far. Okay, so here we are with a night shot, adapter only, and this is just with some house lights on, lighting up my face. It does quite well, except the camera has to shoot at 12,800 ISO. So pretty grainy out there up in the night sky. But let's check out and see how well the autofocusing works with this level of darkness, okay? So we're on face tracking autofocus. I'm gonna put that hand up again, get it to focus on there, right back to the face. Pretty quick there, the adapter. Actually pretty impressive. Background. This, by the way, is again the thinnest depth of field at 2.8, f2.8. It's pretty awesome. Let's go with face in, out. Close out, back in, there it is, back out. Yeah, face tracking works wonderfully on this camera. Okay, let's switch over to the Viltrox Speedbooster and see if it performs just as well. Okay, Viltrox Speedbooster here, and it's still 12,800 ISO, shooting at f2 wide open with the boosted setup. And as you can see, it's a little bit different. Of course, you got that field of view difference because that boosted setup allows that field of view to get a little bit bigger. It actually looks pretty nice in the preview screen. But anyways, here we go. Let's go with autofocus, face tracking again. Let's go back to my hand, back to my face. A bit slower than the adapter. Okay, back to my face. Let's go hand to the background. Super slow. That's super slow. That's almost Canon 32mm slow, if you've seen that video. My goodness. All right, we're gonna go out of frame, face back into frame. That's pretty good. That's great. Okay. But there you go. There's a speed difference, you know, with that really thin depth of field. I wonder if I switch to 2.8, how it looks. Just to give it a similar setting, you know, at least. There's definitely some math that goes into the actual specific depth of field difference, but I'm just going as far as what you're going to see when you use the camera on the display itself. It's going to tell you effectively what the f-stop is, and so you're going to utilize that to go wide open. The whole point of the speed booster is so you get more light in, right? So still 12,800 ISO here, but 2.8, just to be a little bit similar. So we're going to go hand, face, a little bit snappier. Let's go hand to background. All right. Still pretty slow there, right? Yeah, still pretty slow there. Back to face, then we're gonna go in and out. That was fast. Definitely usable for a vlog. Not gonna be super fast speed though, if you're gonna give it really far distances with that thin depth of field. Still doesn't beat the Sigma, does it? You should check out that Sigma 16mm. That's super fast. Well, there you go. I hope that answered most, if not all, your questions on the Viltrox Speedbooster. It continues to be, in my mind, one of the coolest gizmos available for the EF M mount system, but it was definitely dealt some serious damage by the recent release of Sigma lenses, at least in terms of usability. It's not like you're going to go out and get extremely expensive full-frame lenses and use it with the booster. You're probably going to use something like the nifty 50 or the 40mm like I use today, or maybe even the 24mm. Nonetheless, the Sigma lenses are some seriously competitive lenses out there. And on that note, I'm going to continue focusing pretty hard in the next few videos on testing out those lenses and comparing them with other options. For example, one of the most requested videos right now is the Sigma 16mm versus the Canon 22, which should be an interesting comparison as it's another David and Goliath size comparison, and probably going to have a bit of a difference in image quality and performance as well. Now, as always, if you're interested in the booster or the lens used in this video, I'll post links down in the description below so you can check it out for yourself. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, including requests, as well as any type of thoughts you have on the booster or the lens that was used in this video. Don't forget to click that like button if you liked what you saw, if you like the content of the channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time on Drive-By Reviews.